In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's going on? Hey guys, we are live. Tonight we are going to be doing a live Q&A DM Dungeon Master Hangout thing. It's Friday night. We have nothing better to do in our lives besides sit on YouTube and talk about Dungeons & Dragons. And so that's what we're doing tonight. This is just going to be an informal question and answer. We're going to talk about stuff. We're going to hang out. All that kind of cool stuff. So that is the plan for tonight. Nothing beyond that. We're not going to be creating adventures or anything special like that. Just hanging out, talking D&D, fielding questions and stuff like that. I do have I have a few questions that people have sent me in that we will be talking about to get things kicked off. And obviously, if you're joining us tonight, there are instructions. I have oh, hold on a second. I put the wrong screen up. You guys are looking at the wrong. This is the adventure creation screen. That's the wrong screen. This is the right screen. This is the screen that gives you instructions for, like, if you have a question, you need to throw like hashtag all caps question in the chat so that I actually see it and answer it. Otherwise, the chat sometimes goes by really fast and I miss your questions. So if you got a question, that's how you get it in the queue for answering. And like I said, I got some other questions. If you're catching this on the replay, it's possible, however, not guaranteed, that I will go through and like throw timestamps down in the description to the different questions that were asked so that you can like skip to the ones that you find most interesting. No guarantees that I'm going to do that. If you go down there and check and you find it, then you got lucky. Otherwise, you might just have to, like, you know, do what everybody else does and just listen to the whole thing. So there you go. All right, let's see who we got in the house tonight. We have True Mate. What up, dude? Good to see you. Brandon O'Brien. What up, man? Cameron F. Oh, Brandon says, howdy doody dudes and dudettes. All right, man. I call everybody dude. You know, like girls, boys, whatever. They're all dudes to me. So there you go. Huber's in the house. What up, dude? You've been leaving lots of comments on my videos, man. That's a fist bump. Boom. I love comments on my videos. That's cool. That does stuff to the algorithm and all that kind of cool crap. You know, it's all good for the channel. So that's awesome, man. He's got a question, it looks like, too. Truemate's got his hopes up. Nick Williams, what up, dude? Welcome to the live stream. Joel is in the house. Joel, what up, man? Joel's one of my patrons over on Patreon. Fist bump to Joel. He and I and another dude have our patron hangout this Tuesday that's coming up. So don't forget about that, man. I'm looking forward to hanging out with you guys. They get like a private hangout with me and crap because they give me fat wads of cash. No. Pedro, what up, dude? ¿Qué onda, man? ¿Qué te pasa? Bienvenido al canal. That's just in case you speak Spanish. I don't know. You may not. In which case, olvídalo. There you go, buddy. My wife. So interestingly enough, just in case you understood that crap, my wife is from Central America. So I lived in Central America for 4 years. I was a teacher down there at a school, and so like I met my wife down there, you know, and stuff like that. So this is like a bilingual household and stuff. My cat speaks Spanish. True fact. William, what up, dude? Italy. Woo! What time is it in Italy, man? It's got to be like 1 a.m. in Italy or something like that, dude. I don't speak Italian, though. I speak Spanish, not Italian. All right, sweetness. Let's rock and roll. Let's answer some questions and crap. Remember, guys, if you got questions, throw me a hashtag question mark, all caps, down in the chat, plus your question, and we will answer some questions and all of that kind of good stuff. Now, Alaska, Care, what up? What up? Welcome from Alaska. That's totally cool. So like, all right, check this out. I mean, this is probably stereotypical and crap like that, but like, I'm from Michigan, right? And so like, the conception I have of like Alaska is like it's cold and stuff. So is it cold up there right now? Like, what's the climate like up there? Is it like chilling? That's a joke for you. All right, Marcelo, what up? He says, what things called buildings if they're done already? Dude, you just broke the stream. All right, guys, that's it. That's it for tonight. We just broke the stream. It's almost 2 a.m. Nice. Nick Williams is in Australia. Oh, nice. So it's like 11:30 in the morning in Australia. Cool, cool, cool. The video keeps lagging. I can't, you know, if the video is lagging, I cannot do anything about that. My stream status says good. I would try to play it at a lower resolution. That might help it for you. I have it playing over here on my iPad next to me, and it looks good to me. So I can't control YouTube and other factors beyond the control. I can control my Dungeons and Dragons games most of the times, but that is the limit of my control. So there you go. All right. Care missed everything. Oh, that sucks. I don't know what you missed. We're just going through introductions and greetings and banter at the moment. We haven't actually gotten into anything important, but we shall. We shall. So there we go. Let's look at a question. So Huber had a question. He says, how to develop climate and weather instead of just having weather mentioned when some evil entity is affecting it. I mean, I've kind of fallen away from it, but I used to describe the weather, as part of just like my normal day. Like I'd be describing just like if you're traveling somewhere, I'd describe weather or something like that, but I think probably the best way to integrate climate and weather into your game is to actually make it part of things that are happening, possibly to set the stage. For instance, if they're going to go somewhere dangerous or something, have it be overcast and dark, have it rain and thunderstorm. I've done entire adventures before where the adventure was accompanied by like a lightning storm, a thunderstorm that was slowly getting worse and worse as they got farther into this forest. And then when they encountered the final bad guy, lightning was coming down, and lightning was striking the battlefield where they were having their final boss battle. And so that's one way that I've incorporated elements of weather into the adventures and stuff like that. I would just start mentioning it. I would just start if you don't currently mention the weather and climate and stuff in your games, I'd start bringing it up and mentioning it, making it a point to describe to them. And this is good because if you don't normally do this, your players are going to get totally spaced out, and they're going to be like, wait, what? Why is the DM talking about the weather? This is important. We need to investigate this. Something is going on. And you could just be telling them that it's a bright and sunny day, and there are ducks galloping through the forest. That didn't make sense. And they're going to get all suspicious. Well, if there are ducks galloping through the forest, then I hope they get suspicious. But they're going to get all suspicious and inquisitive and wonder what the heck's going on. So you could totally screw with their minds just by doing things like that. So I don't know. There's a couple ideas for you. So there you go. Huber says, lagging is an issue with bandwidth overload and usually local. Could be. I know I used to have AT&T, and these I'm trying to think of a YouTube appropriate term I can call them. Let's go with Wang rods. These guys would they sell me their service, which is it's not dial-up, it's DSL. Is that yeah? So they give me this DSL service, and every single night from around 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock or so, everything lags out. I used to play this MMO called Dungeons and Dragons Online. I used to play that for years. But you have to have a steady internet connection. If you get an internet disruption, your whole game crashes, basically. And you lose stuff. So every night, 6 to 8 p.m., on the clock, I'd be having intermittent internet problems with AT&T DSL. And I call these dudes up and they're like, we don't know what's going on. And I'm like, you guys, it's clear. Everybody is getting home from work and they're logging onto their computers in the internet. And your stuff can't handle the load. And they're just like, Mah. So anyway, I got rid of them and I had to go to Comcast for a while. And the only positive thing I can say to Comcast is that I didn't have to talk to them very much, which is good if you deal with Comcast. And now I have something else, which is great because I didn't want to give Comcast my money. So there we go. There's my DM tips for internet. All right. What do we got? Any more questions in the chat? Here's a question in the chat. I have a dude who sent me a direct message. I'm going to answer some question. TD Haas sent me a question on Instagram. If you guys, do I have my Instagram? Yeah, my Instagram handle is @thedmlair. If you guys care about Instagram, I don't know. This is YouTube. But anyway, he sent me a DM. I will get, if you're in the chat, if you're here tonight, I'm going to answer your question. I'm just going to tease it out and not answer it right away. I'm a mean. This is what I do to my players. I torture them. This is why my players love me and keep coming back. It's like, it's painful. Nick says that you should be suspicious of ducks as a rule. Anyway, I totally agree, dude. Ducks are not, I mean, unless it's on the kitchen table, right, for Christmas dinner or something, suspicious. Absolutely. I totally agree with you, man. Let's see. Yeah, I made it to a live stream. Wiggles, what up, dude? Welcome to the live stream, man. You made it. Have you been having trouble getting to the live streams and stuff, dude? Like, you got to work or something? Or is it, like, late at night for you? All right, Cameron F. has a question. He says, have you ever used a MacGuffin? If so, what was your favorite one to use? So, for everybody who's not aware of what a MacGuffin is, and I actually didn't know what a MacGuffin was until probably, like, 6 months to a year ago. I just never had been introduced to the term. Basically, a MacGuffin is a random and possibly arbitrary thing that, like, the players have to retrieve and obtain in order to progress the adventure, win the campaign, blah, 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 whatever. It could be anything. It could be, oh, there's this big bad evil guy, and only this magical sword can harm him, and so you have to go get the magical sword, which could be an entire series of quests, in order to finally go confront him. And so that's what a MacGuffin is. And absolutely, I mean, I use these things. Everybody, I think most people use MacGuffins. And I think that you can go either one of two ways. You can either embrace the trope, right, the cliche, and just love it up in the same way that you might embrace everybody meeting in a tavern, which I think is great. Or you can be like, no, I don't want to ever use that because everybody does it. It's icky, and not do it. And I prefer to embrace tropes. I love halfling rogues and half-orc barbarians and like, you know, elf wizards and just tropes. I like it. It's D&D. It's fantasy. I love that crap. So yes, absolutely use MacGuffins. Off the top of my head, I don't know. I mean, man, you put me on the spot, dude. Can I get back to you in a future video? Let me think about it. If something comes to my mind about a MacGuffin that I've used, I'm sure I've used at least a few of them in my games for one purpose or another. Nothing is coming to mind at the moment, though. If something comes to mind, I'll get back to you. Apparently, since I can't think of it, that probably means that I don't use them a whole lot. Most of the time, they have different objectives than retrieving something or finding something. So I probably don't use them a whole lot, but I'm sure that I have used it before. And if I can remember, I will let you know. Sorry, that's an impartial answer. But I did give you a whole discourse on what a MacGuffin is and whether you should use it or not, so maybe that's helpful. All right, we have another question from Dan Loft. Oh, I'm gonna give it a go. Loftus. I hope I got that. We can just call you Dan too. He says he is running a one-shot for a big group of family members in a few weeks. Awesome. That's cool, dude. I imagine there was some convincing and conniving to get everybody to play D&D, which is awesome. I know how that goes. I used to, like, connive my brother into playing D&D and, like, Hero Quest and other things with me. And it was always like a tit for tat. Like, he's like, if you play a game that I want to play, I'll play D&D with you. And he always wanted to play the game of life, which I don't know if any of you guys have ever played the game of life. Wow. Like, absolutely amazingly boring. And you just roll dice, you move, you get stuff, you roll dice. There's no decisions, or, I mean, there might be a couple different career paths you can take. I don't know, but hated that game. He always wanted to play it, and I'm just like, D&D, game of life, And then I got some of their friends from high school. Anyway, I am on a tangent. I'm not answering your question. Anyway, he is telling us he says, I'm considering preparing 3 different scenarios and having them choose between them. Too much for a one-off. Well, I mean, it depends on how much. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Perfectly, absolutely, 100%, like, go for it, Woo! Your pal Jinx, $5 super chat. Thank you, buddy. You the man. There's the virtual fist bump right there, buddy. How's the stream doing? Funny, it's my birthday today. Oh, cool. Happy birthday, dude. Is it against social protocol to ask how old you are and crap like that? You don't have to. I mean, you can lie. You just gave me $5, so you're welcome to lie. But anyway, happy birthday, dude. That's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that. We're at our hangout this Tuesday. We'll, like, sing happy birthday or something. I'm not gonna like do it now because like I'd have everybody abandoning the stream like right now. Like this dude sings like a wild ape. Aren't all apes wild? Anyway, thanks dude, appreciate it. And what do we got going on here? I was answering a question. This is 2 distractions. Dan, I promise you I will answer your question. I'm just get distracted, I suppose. He says, I'm considering, oh yeah, okay, 3 things. So here's the thing. If you're like all like, woo, all giddied up and you're ready to like make some stuff and you're excited about it and you want to do it and you want to prepare 3 scenarios knowing full well that they're going to probably pick 1 and that's all they're going to do, sure, do it, man. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, you just got to accept that they're probably going to pick 1 of them and they're not going to do the other ones. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know to what level you prep your games out. Like, I'm a chronic over prepper. I prepare probably more than any man should prepare for a game. So like, if I were doing that sort of thing, what I would do is if you want to do 3 scenarios because you're like, I want to give them options. I want them to feel like they can pick the one that they want to do. Sorry, that is the curse of the live stream. I would consider possibly preparing a little less than you normally would and improvising, unless you're not too good at improvising, in which case just do your full preparation. I mean, my assumption is that you want to put on a good show for your family members, so I'd go all out, dude. There's always a chance that if you wow the pants off from them and they're like, D&D is friggin' sweet, that they're going to want to play again, in which case you have 2 more scenarios for them to run, right? And so your work is not like for nothing. So I don't think there's anything wrong with your idea. I would do whatever you want to do, man. That's cool. That's totally sweet, dude. All right. Let's see. Do we have any more questions? Huber says penguins are worse than ducks. Evil bacon thieving penguins are... Dude. I don't know where you live, dude, but in Michigan, we got penguins. And I'll tell you what, those dudes are territorial. You get close to them and... I'm not even going to tell you guys about my penguin stories. I don't even want to go there. It's a little traumatizing. I'm just going to be honest. All right, Nick. Yeah, Nick says you could do... Nick is talking to Dan. He says he could just do 3 basic outlines and ask which one. Yeah, you could. I mean, I think again, it depends on how comfortable, Dan, you are with improvising, giving a loose outline and then just kind of improvising on the fly. If that's something you're totally comfortable with, then that's probably the way to go. If it's not, then I would prepare what you feel is adequate for you to be able to run your games well for you. And remember, every dungeon master has a different level of what he considers, or she considers, to be adequate preparation, right? Some dungeon masters need to prepare a lot. Others don't need quite as much. I mean, do what makes you feel most comfortable, I think is my answer. Wiggles, okay, Wiggles has a question. Wiggles. What's FT stand for? Your name is Wiggles FT. And like, dude, FT is like an abbreviation for something, right? You're not getting an answer until we know what FT stands for. Next question. Let's see. TrueMate has a question. I'm messing with Wiggles. I want to know what you have to either tell me what FT stands for or you got to make it up. Like my coffee cup. Daddy is loved. Oh, the other side. I gotta show you the drinking side. There we go. My heart belongs to Daddy. It's a good cup. It's nice and heavy, you know. So like when I'm gesticulating and stuff, and I accidentally bump it, it doesn't like tip over and crap. So it's cool. It's cool. All right, I will answer Wiggles' question. Wiggles. I didn't even read his question yet. He says, can I have some pointers for building a campaign? Things like story arcs, BBEG. Does anybody know what... I mean, I know what BBEG means. I'm assuming it's an acronym that stands for something. Does anybody know what it literally stands for? All right, we just have a tangent. We have a mid-question tangent. Stand by. Stand by. Stand by. BBEG. What does that mean? All right. Oh, here. I'm a professional dungeon master, and I don't know what that stands for, but I do now. Big bad evil guy. There we go. Everybody learns something every day. Good deal. I love it. All right. Anyway, he had a question, and he says, "Oh, where'd it go? Chat's scrolling fast on me. pointers for building a campaign, things like story arcs, BBEG, indie game, tying it all together. All right, dude. So I will give you some pointers. Yes. What I want to show you though, I actually made a video about this entire thing. Your question is answered in 2 videos of mine. I made a part 1 and I made a part 2. The part 1 for creating a campaign is all about the theory of like designing a campaign. And then part 2, I actually go in and show you like how I design a campaign. So let me see. I'm gonna give you an answer. I'm gonna give you like a brief answer. But I do want to like, you know, link you guys or whatever to like the video and crap so that you guys can like, you know, learn more about it. Let me just see if I can find it real quick. Stand by. I have to like search my video page. I don't do this very often, so this might be difficult. All right, let me show you what I'm doing. Let's fumble through this together, everybody. DM Lair campaign design. Let's see if that does anything. Oh, look at that! There it is. So that's the name of it. You guys can. There's 2 parts to it. There's a part 1 and then there's a part 2. I'll just. Don't watch it now. Don't watch it now. You have to stay in the live stream, man. We're hanging out. This is like bonding time, all right? But I'm going to link it down below just so you guys got that crap. So that should have linked it down below. Anyway, I made a whole video about it. There's like, ooh, that's an old video. The information should be useful though. So there's that video and then there's a part 2 to it. And now let me actually address your question without having to plug one of my dumb videos. So anyway, his question was building a campaign. So what I like to do, I think when I'm building a campaign, usually how I start off with building a campaign, it's usually browsing through something like this. Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes or the Monster Manual. What I'm looking for is inspiration for a campaign. What inspires me is seeing some crazy, evil, bad monster and being like, that's awesome. That's freaking sweet. Usually I'm cruising for like harder ones. You'd think I didn't know how to write. I'm a professional technical writer, so like writing is my thing, but apparently speaking is not. Anyway, that's not my point. What was my point? Yes, I'm looking for a higher CR rating monster, something like maybe a 10 or a 12 or a 15. What I'm looking for, possibly, ideally, is like the big bad guy. I want to find out who the big bad guy is for my campaign. That's one of the first things I usually want to figure out. Who's behind the scenes, doing all the machinations and stuff like that. And then I want to think about what is his motivation. Like, what is it he's doing to the world to introduce conflict, right? Because every campaign, everything is about some sort of conflict. Now, it doesn't have to be like a physical conflict, like I'm going to like slaughter people and take over the world. It could be something more subtle. Like the big bad could be some like guy who was slighted by nobility growing up, maybe exiled from nobility, and then when he got older, he decided he's going to get revenge on nobility. And so he has an entire thieving network designed and what do you want to call it, deployed to get things from nobility that could be used to blackmail them, right? Get dirt on them. And that's what he is doing. And so he's creating conflict like that. But my point is you want to find out, once you find who would be your big bad, what kind of conflict is he going to introduce into the world and why? What are his motivations? You want to figure out what his motivations are, what his methods are that he goes about doing that. In our situation, in the example I just made up, he's using a thieving network to steal and find dirt, blackmail stuff that they can use to blackmail him. And so you want to figure out motivations, the methods, the means, you know, what he has. The means are like what he has available at his disposal to like go about his purpose and his agenda, right? So once you got your big bad, you want to figure out those motivations. And then you're gonna start going through the monster manual and finding other things, cohorts, maybe lieutenants, other monsters, other creatures that you want to use in your campaign, right? And you want a wide variety of challenge ratings. That's usually how campaign planning starts off for me. finding cool monsters, getting inspired. Like when I did the campaign planning for my Sword Coast Guard group, I was inspired by giants. I'm looking at all these crazy, awesome giants, and I'm like, this is sweet. And I was also, I was reading through Volo's Guide to Monsters. Is that the name of it? Volo's Guide to Monsters? Maybe that's the name of it. I was reading through that, and I was reading about the giants and stuff, and I'm like, this is cool. And then I was reading through the section about the orcs, and I'm like, this is cool. And so I came up with this idea of some giants, lots of giants, and a giant empire, a giant empire that was like reestablishing itself, and the orcs were sworn to the giants as vassals, and they were going about doing the giants' will. And so that was just like the beginning of my machinations in my brain for my campaign planning, and everything just kind of went from there. And so there's some quick pointers about that. The end game and tying it all together. So the end game and tying it together is easy if you start at the end game. Okay? If you know who the big bad is, what his motivations, goals, and stuff are, and what he's doing in the world, and then you just have like a string of adventures that slowly work down their way in challenge rating until it gets like level 1 or 5 or whatever you're going to have them start at. The end game is pretty clear, right? Like, and all the adventures should be leading the players to that end game. You know, final confrontation, blah, 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 whatever it's going to be, right? And then the adventure, you start with the end game in mind, and you design the adventures to get there. That makes sense in my brain. I don't know if I'm communicating that in a way that seems easy to implement. It might not be the easiest thing to implement. In fact, it's probably easier to implement that on paper than it is to implement it in practice, just because you have no way of knowing or predicting what your players are actually going to do in the game. They could go off and do stuff that you weren't anticipating, in which case you have to adjust. And that is why knowing what your big bads and motivations, goals, methods, and means, why that's important, because if your players do something unexpected, you have a lot of information about your big bad to roleplay him and say, okay, the players did this. How would the big bad react to that? How would he deploy all of the minions and stuff that he has at his disposal to react to the fact that the players are doing this thing that my adventure planning didn't account for? And so there's some tips for you that I think hopefully are useful. All right, so I hope that was somewhat satisfying, and let's move on. I see some more questions. The in-between and linking everything. Yeah, I mean, you gotta find henchmen. Find henchmen. Find mid-level cronies for the in-between. So, like, at the very beginning, they're gonna go on an adventure and they're gonna defeat a dude. Sorry, alarm went off. Somewhere in the adventure, what was I saying? Henchmen. So, like, at the end of the first adventure, they're gonna defeat a henchman. You can use things like letters. The big bad sent a letter to that henchman telling him, you know, you need to send reinforcements over to this guy over here because blah, 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 blah. Now the players have a letter. Oh, this guy's working with somebody else, and there could conveniently be a map there. So and this is a great opportunity for a handout, like a physical letter that you type up with like cool script that you download from a font site. I have like sealing wax and a bunch of like little, you can buy beads, like pewter beads and crap that go on necklaces, and they make wonderful like little decorative things that you can melt the wax on a piece of paper and then push these beads into it. Like I have beads that are shaped like, you know, monster faces and other crap, I don't know, owls and whatnot. So that's a really cheap way you can get these things on Amazon for super cheap, just bags of them, right? If you try to actually get like stamps, if you try to actually get wax stamps that will do decorative designs in your wax, they're super expensive. So just get beads. They're made out of like pewter or something like that, and they're super cheap. Anyway, I have often used that sort of thing to tie the different adventures together to lead the players from one place to another. Because I mean, you could have like an NPC hub where the players constantly go back to the same NPC, and they get their next directions, they know where to go next, blah, 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 blah. That's perfectly fine. I often do that. However, you could also just leave little clues and plants, you know, at the end of an adventure that will lead them on to the next one, or that might have a plant for two different adventures they could go on, you know, and then they have a choice of which one to go to first, you know. So yeah, that's how I would tie them together. Make it obvious, though. It needs to be pretty obvious. Players, being subtle with your players sometimes doesn't work. It's better to be blunt and obvious, in my experience. And then there's no question about where the adventure goes. So there you go. All right. Truemate says, question, what's your go-to method for naming NPCs on the fly? Let me show you my go-to method. I have my DM bag conveniently next to my computer. This is my go-to method. I have, get my face in the picture, I have a list of names paper-clipped to the back of my Dungeon Master screen. So, I'm sitting there running the game with this is my cool slick Dungeon Master stream. It's so sweet. I'm so awesome. Anyway, and as I'm running the adventure, if I need an NPC name, boop, I got it. There it is. That's how I do it. Failing that, I just spout out some gibberish. Like I might say Kelvinor, or I'll say copy up, or Melvin, or Bodilam. I don't know. I just spout out gobbledygook. The thing with it is that it's Dungeons and Dragons. Its fantasy names are, there's almost this expectation that they're unpronounceable and weird. So you can almost just, and a trick I use is I'll look at an object. I'm looking at my microphone right now. It starts with an M. Melvin. Okay? My coffee cup. Kopalak. There you go. My phone. Pelka. I don't know. I'm just making up consonants and syllables and crap. Or I could just say something like Timmy. Timmy's a great name. And then the players are going to laugh and chuckle and, your name's Timmy, and they'll have a fun time at it. I do that. If you have an iPad or a computer, you could do a quick search or something, but that slows things down. I usually just my preferred method is referring to my screen, right? My second preferred method is just looking at an object and just thinking up something really dumb on the spot. So that's what I do. I don't know how cool that is, but that's that. Andrew Humans, what's up, dude? Welcome to the stream, man. He says, getting ready to run my Strahd game. What are leveling via milestone? And they might hit one mid-session, like a huge fight, likely in the second half. What are your views on leveling mid-session? I don't do it. I don't level mid-session. It's a milestone. I've not run Strahd before. If they're at, okay, well, let me totally retract what I just said. If there is a milestone and they complete the adventure or objective that milestone set, then I think that it's appropriate to level whenever they hit that milestone. If the question were I use XP and they gain enough XP mid-adventure to level, then I would say wait till the end of the adventure to level, okay? But since it's milestone and you typically only receive milestone leveling from completing an adventure or a big objective, then I would say that that's an appropriate time to have them level up because you just completed a big objective. Whether it's mid-session or at the beginning of a session or at the end of the session, completing a big objective, leveling up before you start the next one, I think that's appropriate. So I would do that. But if it were XP system, then I would wait until they finished an adventure, and then I would have them level up. I don't do leveling up mid-adventure. Because sometimes that would cause you to have to readjust your difficulty of your encounters and crap like that. All right. Mike Forgy's in the house, and he asked if we can milk a kobold. I'll tell you what.
If we had a kobold here right now, let's just say, just hypothetically, if Gary the kobold were here right now, we'd be milking him. But he's not here.
So that's my answer. We will not be milking a kobold tonight. However, I am completely open to the option. If you were to mail me a kobold, and I have a P.O. box number somewhere that I could send you. If you were to mail me a kobold, we would totally milk it. Hopefully that is a promise that I'll never have to fulfill, but there it is. immortalized on the internet. All right, I think I saw some more stuff here. Bum 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 bum. Truemate says, "Who doesn't want to hear about territorial guard penguins? They're terrifying, dude." Dolphus colon. What's up, dude? He has eggs. Pedro. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm like way back in the chat, guys. I'm way back in the chat. Like, you guys were answering the question of what BBEG stands for, and I'm just getting to that. So I'm like way behind in the chat. But I'm like talking and answering questions, so that's like to be expected. This is what happened before when we were doing this sort of thing. All right, Pedro asks, have you ever used sea travels or naval battles? How to make them interesting? I mean, encounters at sea, I mean, the easiest way to make them, if you're using sea travels as a way to get from point A to point B, and the interesting stuff all happens at point B, then the easiest way to make the travel interesting is to skip right over it and go to point B, because that's where you had all of your adventure planned. But if you want to have something interesting happen while they're traveling at sea, then you would approach that, I think, the same way that you would approach traveling on land. I don't think there's any difference whether sea by land. And so ways that we make traveling over land interesting are by encounters. Whether those encounters are actual combats or social interactions. For instance, they might be traveling by sea and they see a ship like adrift and just floating there, half sunk. And they might go investigate it. They might be floating, and who knows what's in that, right? They might be floating at sea, and they see something below the surface of the water, floating by sea. They might be traveling by sea, and there's something below the surface of the water that's glistening and glittering. Who knows what that is? They may or may not go down there to find it. It could be a sunken treasure ship. Imagine the discussion at your table as they're like, holy crap, what's down there? Let's go figure this out. Sunken treasure. Whatever, who knows? I mean, that's how you spice up sea travel. Put things out there that are interesting for them to interact with and have discussions about and decide what they're going to do. Obviously, you can do tried and true things like have a kraken come at them, which could be totally deadly, or pirates attack, or you could just have something like a rowboat out in deep sea, and there's this dude rowing, and it's just a simple little thing where the dude got like swept out by the current, and they like rescue him and help him out or something. There could be like some rocks, and there's some dude like, stranded on the rocks. His ship got shipwrecked, and he's on the rocks, and he could be somebody important. He could be some nobility. They go over there, they rescue him, they help him out, and the dude's like, you guys rescued me, you saved my lives, take me back to Waterdeep. I'm actually X and X person, you know what I mean, and I'm going to reward you. Okay, and things like that would make that travel more interesting. Or you could just fast forward. It's up to you. I mean, but that's how I would do it. The same way that you make travel over land interesting, you'd make travel at sea interesting. There you go. Hope that's helpful. Let's see what else we got going on here. Oh, Nick is following up to the question that I answered like a while ago because I'm long-winded. He says, I'm not advocating improvising the whole thing. Give the group give them 3 options and then do detailed prep for the one they pick. Yeah, absolutely. That's cool too. You are the one that asked that question. I'm getting all my people confused. That's the problem when I'm looking at like dozens of names. I forget who asked what question. Absolutely, if you want to tell them in advance, like here are 3 different ideas for things you could do, and then they pick the one they think is the most interesting, and then that's the one you prep, yeah, absolutely. That's probably the best way to do it, because then you don't like waste time and effort, but you still give them the option of choosing the one they want to do. So totally, that's a good way to go, dude. Wiggles finally answered what FT stands for. He says Wiggles FT stands for follow through. It's the name of my band because we're shite. And that's what we tell people. Set expectations as low as possible, so then when we're mediocre, they're wowed. Dude, setting expectations low is cool. I use this at my job all the time. So I have like projects and crap I work on. And like people will sometimes ask me like when you can have something done. And like I will always tell them, I will always pick a time like something that's like a week later than I think. And so then like if they're like, okay, that's fine, then I'll give it to them like probably a week earlier, and they're like, whoa, cool. Or if they want to like negotiate and like, oh, I need it faster, then I have wiggle room because I gave them a far out date. So there you go. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. D&D tonight. Big bad evil guy, big bad evil guy, big bad nasty evil guy. Ooh, BBNEG, totally tossing it up. All right, one more questions. Trume has a question. Trume has a question about the Ravnica setting. Have you ever played D&D Ravnica setting, and what do you think? I have not played it. I have not read the book. I have a couple videos on my channel that review Ravnica because I love reviewing things that I haven't read before. Actually, I brought my friend John on, and he was playing Magic the Gathering since like middle school, and so I brought him on the channel, and we did a review. We did 2 videos. First of all, he gave like an introduction to the setting of Ravnica. And that was the first part. Just for people in D&D that aren't familiar with Ravnica and the Magic the Gathering world, multiverse, I should say. And I just started playing Magic the Gathering recently. I'm just starting to learn. It's pretty complex. And so anyway, we did one video where we're talking about Ravnica, the world setting, so people can kind of have an idea of what it's about. And then we did a second video where he was reviewing the literal book, the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, or whatever it's called. He loves it. He thinks it's awesome. Obviously, context, he is a Magic the Gathering player who also plays Dungeons & Dragons. So he loves it, right? But what he was describing, without having read the book, right, what he was describing to me about the book and stuff, it sounds really interesting. There are like I think it's 12 different guilds basically, and the book gives like really detailed descriptions and maps and crap about these guilds and whatnot. And so it really seems like if you want to forget that it's in Ravnica, forget that it's in Magic the Gathering, okay? Let's just wipe that from our brains for a second. If you want to run a politically like motivated campaign, this book might just fulfill that need of having like some different organizations, guilds in this case. You can make them whatever you want. They don't have to be guilds, but I think, but that could fill the need for running like a political type game possibly, and give you stuff, a world, or at least guilds and crap to do that with. I'm just spitballing here based upon my small understanding of the book and Ravnica and crap like that. So that's really all I know, dude. I'm gonna find. Let's just find this video real quick for you guys. DM Lair. I'll link it below. Ravnica. DM Lair, Ravnica. So here's the 2. So here you can see I did 2 of them. I did an introduction to Ravnica for D&D players, and then Guildmaster's Guide review. And so I'll toss a link to one. I'll just throw a link to both of these things down in the chat. So don't watch it now. Don't abandon the live stream. But linked for your convenience are those 2 reviews and those things, if you care to take a gander at that. I swear I'm not trying to pawn videos off on you, but like, you know, I could spend an hour talking about this. Probably not, because I don't know a whole lot about it. Or I could send you to a video that talks about it much better than I can do it now. And I think that's probably the better thing. All right, anyway, moving on. Actually, there are some more questions here. Swan Master Flex is in the house. Okay, guys, we can start now. It's 9:21 p.m. The stream has officially begun because Swan Master Flex has arrived. Moment of silence. Actually, I need to drink coffee. I'm getting thirsty, too. I think I need to get some water. I don't have any water down here. I should have brought water. I'm like live streaming and talking for 2 hours. You'd think I'd want to have some water. All right. And he apologizes for the caps. I was deeply offended by the caps. I'm gonna put that out there right now. It was offensive. So I accept your apology. Let's see. What do we got going on? That was the Ravnica question. By the way, guys, if I'm skipping your question, you are welcome to repost it in the chat. Just don't go nuts on me. If I find somebody posted the question like 50 times, then I might not like that. But there's a chance I'm going to skip crap. So what I want to do, Andrew Humans, $2 super chat. You the man. Thank you. Virtual fist bump right there. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. I will use that to do something very productive. I'm sure. Probably buy a cookie or something. Cookie. What do I want to... Oh, what kind of food would I want right now? I don't know. That's not a cookie. I don't think I want a cookie. Beef jerky. Oh, I could go for some beef jerky right now. Anyway, we diverge. Love the DM screen. Thanks, buddy. I like it too. It was one of these things. I got it on Amazon. And it has like the papers like slide out. There's like, and I can slide new papers in and crap like that. And so I printed up some cool stuff for it. True mate. All right, dude. See you later, buddy. He's got to take off. Yeah, 1 a.m. is rough, dude. Thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate it. Always good to hang with the peeps. That's why I do live streams. There are some dudes that like, they do live streams, but they're just like basically producing a video, but they're not like interacting with people. And I don't get it. I mean, the whole point of doing a live stream is like interacting with people and talking and junk, and that's fun. And I feel like I'm answering your questions directly, so I feel like I'm doing something that's like super valuable. You know what I mean? That it's like, dude, I got a question. Here's an answer, man. Whereas like my normal video content, it's like, maybe this is helpful, maybe it's not. I don't know. But anyway, I diverge. I was doing something. Somebody had a question. I was going to answer questions and crap like that. Oh, True-Mate had a question, and now he's leaving. True-Mate, I'm sorry. Don't go. I'll answer your question. What I'm going to do here, though, is I had a dude on Instagram send me a question, and I want to answer it because it was a good question. It was TD Hoss. TD Hoss. I'll just call him the boss. He wanted like to know if I have any tips. So he literally says, do you have any tips, or is there a video or part of one of your videos that deals with the rules of spellcasting, as well as just combat in general? Like how to make the mechanics of spellcasting go smooth along with the standard hack and slash that goes along with it. So I don't have a video that explains all of the rules of spellcasting in combat. I recommend, I don't know how much value there is in me rehashing the player handbook. So I asked him to specify if he had any specific questions, and he did, which is good, because I can answer specific questions. But I'm not going to read the player handbook to anybody. So he's talking about the druid spell. So he says, I am the DM. My PC druid cast a spell that is essentially a ball of fire that she can move about the battlefield. Yep, I'm familiar with that spell. Somebody knows the name of it. I don't remember what the name of it is. I know the spell very well, but I don't know the name of it. Flaming Sphere? Is it Flaming Sphere? I don't know. Might be. If a character ends its turn in the spell area of effect, they take damage. It doesn't say anything about whether movement through it is difficult terrain or whether it affects the landscape around it. Like, does it set flammable things on fire? Is that something as a DM I can decide? Yes. 100% yes. So here's the thing. Previous editions of Dungeons & Dragons, it seems like what they were trying to do, like I'm talking about 3.5 and 4th edition, it seems like what they were trying to do is like expand the rule set to such a degree that the rules answer all of the questions, and the Dungeon Master just needs to refer to the rules to figure out what happens. 2nd edition was not like that. 5th edition is not like that. 5th edition, like 2nd edition, gives power back to the Dungeon Master to use his discretion in determining things like this. So yes, 100% use your discretion. If you think that walking through a massive ball of fire should be difficult terrain, then make it difficult terrain. If you think that that ball of fire should set stuff on fire, like a table or grass or something, or wood, have it set it on fire. Absolutely. Use your discretion. It's always, and that becomes interesting too. When the druid casts that spell and it starts setting stuff on fire, it makes things much more interesting for the players, I think, too. All right, his question continues. It says, also it's concentration and she can move it. Yep, Flaming Sphere. That must be the name of it. Can she still cast while concentrating on it and trying to move it? Here's the deal. So the player handbook describes this in the last chapter on spellcasting. Basically what it says is that while you're concentrating on a spell, you can cast any other spell as long as it's not a concentration spell. So if I'm concentrating on Flaming Sphere, I can do like Eldritch Blast, I can do a Fireball, I can do a whole bunch of different spells as long as they don't require concentration. If I cast another spell that requires concentration, then my Flaming Sphere is gone. So that's the way that works. And then he says, also I had a wizard baddie cast blindness on my druid. She's a new player, and once blinded, she couldn't come up with any ideas about what she could do while still blind. I mean, a caster blinded is really bad. I would say the majority of spells require you to be able to see your target. The majority of them. Not all of them. Don't kill me. The majority of them do. So blinding a caster is nasty business. So it might be hard to figure out what she can do. I totally commiserate with that. I suggested if she had any spells that didn't require sight, she could try those. So I guess any tips any tips you may have about how things like that could work better, I hope I have explained it. Yeah. So if you see that casting blindness on her is frustrating her and she's not able to do anything, then my suggestion is probably just don't cast blindness on her. You know, because there's spells that take players completely out of the game for all intents and purposes are best used sparingly, in my opinion, because being taken out of the game for a extended period of time isn't lots of fun. I still do it. I just did a video recently recommending lots of spells that essentially take players out of the game, so but use them sparingly. So if you see that blinding her is causing her lots of frustration and she's not having as much fun, then one way to go is to basically don't use it. Don't blind her. You know, blind the melee dude and then have him like whacking at people, you know what I mean, at disadvantage, as opposed to blinding the druid and then her not being able to do anything. So, or you could work with her and find spells, help her find spells that she can use while blinded. That's what I would do. You know, you might have to do that offline though. I don't know that you want to stop your entire game to go through the monster or go through the spells and find out which ones she could use. That's kind of, in my opinion, it's on her as the player to know her class and know what spells, you know, to be familiar with her spells. I think that work should be on her. But you can certainly help her, but I would do it offline. I wouldn't stop a game session to go through spells with her. So that's my thoughts on that. All right, I've answered Haas's question. So I hope that was helpful, dude. I don't know if you were here or not. I DM'd you telling you that I was going to answer it in my YouTube stream. So there you go. All right. Dolphin, it looks like Dolphin has a question. Remember, guys, if you got a question, give me a hashtag all caps question so that it catches my eye. There's a chance I will miss it if I can't speak tonight. If you don't do that, I might not see your question because there's lots of junk in the stream chat. There you go. Also, guys, if you are on like social media like Twitter and crap like that, feel free to share the stream out so we can get more peeps here. Also, if you're liking this junk, give me a thumbs up. That does help me. It is positive metrics for my channel. If you think this sucks, thumbs down that baby like a madhouse too. Pro tip, giving me thumbs down actually helps my channel too. It's all considered engagement by YouTube, so it's good stuff. TrueMate had a question. Let's get to TrueMate's question. TrueMate has surely left by now and is sleeping. So let's answer his question. He can catch it on the replay. All right, Troom. He says, if you have players with linked backstories and due to outside circumstances lose one or two, how do you personally keep pushing forward? I just do. Like, if you want to link your backstories, I mean, D&D is a miniature war game. Like, life and death is every encounter, every battle, things could go badly, right? So, like, it needs to be an accepted part of the game that you could die. I mean, every battle is, that's why you might want to avoid battles, because you could die. It's a miniature war game, so people could die. So it's possible two characters linked backstories, one of them dies. I don't know. I mean, as a dungeon master, I just keep running my game. I would tell the new player, or tell the player whose PC died, you know, roll up a new player or roll up a new PC, and I'll work you into the game as quickly as possible, like right away, because I don't want you sitting on the sideline. And then the other player who's still alive, he could figure out, like, how would I role play this? I had a linked backstory. How do I role play this? And then he could, who knows where that'll go? I have no idea where that would go. I mean, I wouldn't spend, unless you want to somehow work that whole character death and backstory into your game, and then you adjust things. But I wouldn't worry about it a whole lot. You know, that their backstories and how they want to roleplay their backstories when something like that happens, I think is on them to decide how they want to roleplay it. Now, if you want to incorporate elements of their backstory into the game, then obviously that's on you, and you can get creative and think about ways that you could incorporate elements of that backstory into the game. You might have that player who died come back as a revenant or something, or I don't know, who knows. So there are definitely things you could do with that, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. I would really just keep playing the game, and, you know, life is cheap. People, well, I almost just threw my mouse across the room. People die in the game. People die. PCs die. So that's my answer, I think. There we go. Oh, Dolphin has a question. He says, have you done videos on how to do one-shots? I'm pretty sure I did. My DM cannot come. We have to make something that lasts about 3 hours. I did do a video. Let us find that video. Let us search for the video. So I'm typing in DM Lair, and then I'm typing in one shot. I'm pretty sure I did a video on that. Hey, look at that. D&D one-shot adventures. I will link that down below. Definitely did a video on that. It's not too long. Oh, I take that back. It's 36 minutes long. I did do a video on that. I would check that out. Basically, the way that I run one-shots to make sure it fits in a limited time slot is, I mean, I have a normal adventure planned out, and I keep an eye on the clock, and if they're starting to get to the end of my time box, then I start pulling out elements of the adventure that are not essential so that they can get to the end of it in the time slot. In a nutshell, that's how I run one-shots. I run games at conventions all the time. I go to Marmalade Dog every year. Marmalade Dog, this is the shirt I got from Marmalade Dog. It's pretty cool. I like the color. Marmalade Dog's shirts are always really comfortable too, which I like. They're not cheap shirts. They actually get like decent quality shirts, which I really appreciate. Marmalade Dog is in Kalamazoo, Michigan every year, sometime in the spring. So like if any of you guys go to that, you can play in a game with me. But anyway, what was my point? Oh, I do conventions. I go to Grand Con as well in Grand Rapids, Michigan. That's going to be coming up in August or September, I think, this year. My point is that I run games at conventions, and that's basically how I do it. Design a normal adventure, keep an eye on the time, and then pull out elements that are non-essential so that the players can more quickly get to the end of it. So that what you want to do, the most important thing, in my opinion, if you're running a one-shot, is to give your players a satisfying ending. It sucks hardcore to be playing an adventure and then, whoops, we're out of time. You don't get an ending. That sucks. And so as a dungeon master, you got to keep an eye on the time, and you got to pull things out that aren't essential so they can get to the end of the adventure and have a satisfying ending. And so that is improvisational in nature. You got to figure out how to do that. You know, so there is a little bit of discretion, a little bit of artwork there, right? It's not a science. But that, in a nutshell, that's how I do it. But that video I linked will give you more information, I think, on that. So there you go. All right. I got a drink. The assumption is this is coffee. It might be something else. All right. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, so a Master Flex is like milking a male kobold. That's true. Gary the intern probably would not enjoy being milked. Let's see. I'm looking for questions. I am cruising for questions. Cruising for questions. Dun, dun, dun. Wiggles says, Magic the Gathering is great. I used to play in the local weekly league, but had to give it up when my son was born because I couldn't afford both. Yeah, it can get expensive. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about it, but it can definitely get expensive. There are different versions of the game, too. Like, there's one version where, like, you pretty much have to rebuild your deck with a certain frequency, and that can get expensive, I understand. And especially if you want to be competitive and you're actually, like, buying the good cards to build a really cool deck, then, yeah, I have a very, very rudimentary understanding of Magic the Gathering, but that is my understanding. So there you go. John Soki's in the house. What up, dude? Good to see you again. He says, I keep having my friends wanting me to run a game of Backstab, so Ravnica is the perfect setting for that. 10 guilds, good. I think I said 12, 10 then, 10. Each motivated by their own goals, constantly undermining each other. Good times. Yeah, dude, that sounds like a great way to do that. If that's the game they want to play, absolutely. Andrew's taking off. See you later, buddy. Oh, his game starts in an hour. Cool. Good luck, buddy. Let me know. Drop me like a note somewhere. Let me know how your game went, buddy. I want to know. If you're not in my Discord, anybody who's not in my Discord, there's a link down in the description to my Discord server. Feel free to join me over there. And Andrew, hit me up in the Discord and let me know how your game went. I want to know how it went. I'm a master of the English language and communication. I'm looking for any more questions, ladies and gentlemen. Otherwise, I actually have some questions pre-prepared. That is not proper English. If you have something prepared, that means that you made it up and have it ready ahead of time. So it doesn't make sense to say pre-prepared. There you go. I'm glad we clarified that. Leon Burge says, Luke, did you have a look at my email? You know, I got your email, and I've been looking at it. Oh, I have a bunch of emails here. I shouldn't be showing my emails to everybody. I got your email. I've been really busy. I'll take a look at it and see what I got to say about it. Yeah, I got your email, dude. I am like, you know, I'm going to use busy as my excuse. Which is actually very true. Making videos is a lot of work. Paul Schreiber is in the house. What up, man? Good to see you, man. Huber says, want to see players not having fun due to DM taking away player control of the PCs. Watch last night's Critical Role episode. Yeah. Interesting. I don't watch Critical Role a whole lot. I watched a few episodes of season 1, but I don't keep up with it. I've been watching some of Matt Colville's The Chain, though. That seems, for some reason, that's more interesting to me than Critical Role, because Critical Role is a show. It's not an actual D&D game. I mean, they're playing D&D, but they're all putting on a show. They have an audience. They're playing D&D for spectators intentionally, whereas what Colville's doing is more just people playing D&D, and we're watching them play D&D. So that appeals to me more than Critical Role, but that's irrelevant, I suppose. I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying that what they're doing is different than, like, stuff I'm interested in, I guess. There you go. All right, I'm going to stop digging that hole. Moving on. Cameron says, question, how often do you use custom monsters? That's a good question. So, there are two ways. How often do I use them? Often enough. There are two ways I use custom monsters. The first way is that I actually design it to be a custom monster, and I change things about the monster ahead of time. The second way that I use custom monsters is I change things on the fly during a battle. Like, I might just decide that a frost giant can create armor that covers him out of ice, that improves his armor class, or that he, I don't know, whatever, something, make something up. I usually customize my bosses a little bit because I usually give them like legendary resistances at least, usually legendary actions if they don't already have them, or I give them minions. But action economy being what it is, one solitary monster by itself fighting the players is going to get destroyed no matter how hard he is. Sorry. So I use them fairly often. Wheels. Pre-prepared. So prepared, you got it prepared before you even knew what you were preparing. Yes, exactly. Totally. Seven Silverman has a question. Awesome. Welcome to the stream, dude. If anybody else got questions, remember, hashtag question, throw it down below, and I will answer questions and whatnot. And it's 9:40 for me, and we will be probably ending at 10 tonight because I want to get some sleep. So your window for asking questions is running out. If you got questions, throw them in the chat. I literally want you to throw them in the chat. I will be watching. All right, Seven Silverman says, question. Have you or would you ever use time travel in a campaign? Have I ever? No, I don't think so. Would I ever? Sure. It could be fun. And do you have ideas how you would want it to work? I mean, how I would want it to work? I don't know. It depends on what I'm trying to accomplish with it. It depends on, like, stupid cat. It's like sleeping on the floor between a bunch of boxes. It's all weird. They have like a couch and beds, and he's like in a weird position. Sorry, that's a tangent. I would want to, if I were going to use time travel, it would be because I'm trying to accomplish a specific purpose with it. Something with the story or with the villains or something. So how I would use it is going to depend on the effect that I'm going for. And I know that's a very vague answer. But I think it's a cool idea, right? You just would want to know what you're going for. And then, yeah, I don't think that is not a satisfying answer. I admit to that. If I had more specifics around what you're thinking, then I might be able to give you something better. He's saying the players want to change time and certain outcomes. That could be interesting. I mean, that could be a really interesting adventure, right? They want to go back in time to change something that happened because something bad happened. That could be very interesting. You would need to figure out a way to make that a challenge for them, though. Because if they just go back in time and change events that happened and they know exactly where to go and what to do, you need to throw some wrenches in those plans. You need to do something to make that interesting for them somehow and make it challenging. But that could be a really interesting adventure. Absolutely. That's a really cool idea, actually. You would need to give them some sort of mechanism to time travel. I would suggest doing it in a way that can only be used like a few times. So a spell that they can just keep on casting that allows them to travel in time as much as they want would probably be way too powerful. But some sort of like artifact that allows them to do it like 3 times ever, and then the artifact disappears might be more interesting. And then they got to choose what are the events that they want to wipe out. But yeah, that could make for a really interesting adventure. Yeah, that's a great idea. I've never thought of that before. That's really cool. Wiggles says it's 1:42 and he has to get up tomorrow. Awesome. Meeting your brother for brunch. Cool. Yeah. I just need to get some sleep tonight. I've been up really late this whole week, like finishing up my videos and crap. So like I just want to get some sleep this weekend. Next week I don't have to do any video work because I'm caught up until the next sprint of video works. So there you go. Liam Burge has a question. What's your opinion on multi-level mapping, and do you think having PCs in other areas of the map is too... 4 Elemental, man, your comments are getting like censored, okay? No swearing! No swearing! Keep this family friendly. I will allow it this once. All right. Anyway, I was middle of reading something. Multi-level mapping. Do you think having PCs in other areas of the map is too time or resource consuming? So here's how I would. So there are different answers to this question. There are different parts of answers to this question. First of all, as a general rule, I tell my players that I want to run a group game where you guys stick together, because running a split party is difficult for the DM, sometimes can be boring for the players. So as a general rule, please stay together for my sake, for your sake, for my sanity, and I will appreciate that. However, that is a general rule. From time to time, splitting up is fine. And if you only do it from time to time, I'm not going to like get all worked up about it, okay? So I let my players know that up front, so they're just aware that, you know, Luke wants us to stay together. It's part of the game because, like, it's really hard for a DM to run split parties. So, but if they do it occasionally, then usually what I do it, the way I would do it is I don't actually, like, I run map and minis and grids and stuff like that. If they were to split the party and do things, I would probably start describing things theater of the mind. At least for one of them, or one group of them that is off doing something. I probably would not actually map things. Actually, as a general rule, I do everything theater of the mind until there's an actual combat or battle. And that's when I actually get the map, the minis and grids out. So if they're out of combat, then running two groups in different places is not that hard because I'm just doing it theater of the mind, right? Once a battle springs, then I'll put the map and minis down, and they'll actually do a battle. You know what I mean? So that's my guidelines. That's how I would do it. If you do it theater of the mind and just describe things, then I don't think that it's too time or resource consuming to do that. But if you draw everything out on the grid, then yeah, that's gonna get rough as both groups are doing things. That's gonna take a lot of time. I wouldn't recommend doing that. So I hope that's helpful. If you have any follow-up questions, if I didn't really answer your question very well, let me know, and I will answer it better. All right. Wiggles can't even English anymore. Bueno, vamos a hablar español, pues. Time travel is fickle. The butterfly effect. I love the butterfly effect movie. That was pretty cool. I have the butterfly effect 2 as well. I haven't seen that one. I've had it for years, probably for like a decade, and I have never watched it. It's probably still in that like plastic wrap that the movie comes in. I don't know why I haven't watched it because I really liked the first movie, the butterfly effect. Questions we'll never know the answer to. I'm looking for questions. Time travel broke. For Elemental says, I didn't know this was a good Christian server. You know, I just like to keep it, you know, clean and stuff. You know, that's all. It's not a big deal. But like, you know, profanity and crap, it's like, we don't really need that around here, in my opinion. And I don't tend to use profanity anyway, much at all ever. So that's just me, my personal thing, whatever. For Elemental says, how do you describe a scene better? Off the top of my head, the way that I describe a scene is I envision the scene in my brain. I don't know how like groundbreaking this is, but I envision being there myself, and then I just start describing stuff. And then what I do is, as I'm describing stuff, my brain just like starts creating more and more details, and I'll just like roll with it, and I'll describe more and more details as I describe a scene. What I like to do though is if you just stick with visual stuff, that's one element. But if you can start describing stuff that they smell, okay, stuff that they feel, like what does a room smell like? You know, is it like stuffy and humid? And do they feel like, you know, it's all clammy? Maybe it's really hot, so they have like beads of sweat that starts to roll down their faces. You know, think of more than just visual stuff. Think of like your 5 senses. You know, what does the room taste like? If they're tasting the room, you know. So I think thinking visual, like in those ways, you know, in the 5 senses is going to help you describe things a little bit better. I don't know if that's a helpful answer, but that's the way I think about it. Are we out of questions? Secret oh man, here you go. I have to pronounce a big English word. You're killing me, dude. Secret antitheist. Antithesis, and oh man, you're killing me. Somebody give me like a syllable pronunciation guide for this dude's last name. I mean, I should be able to pronounce this, but it's late on a Friday night and I'm tired. So it's causing me a stumbling. Antithesis. It's like dude like swings into the channel when I'm tired and his name's giving me the Bob. All right, Bob. Thank you. You're saving me, dude. Bob. Anyway, he says he likes my content. It helps him. Good. that's why I do this. My goal is to produce crap that helps people. DMs run awesome games and junk like that. That's not just my tagline. That actually, literally, is my motivation for like making videos and stuff. Is to share my knowledge and experience with others so that it can motivate them, inspire them, and help them run awesome games. So I'm glad it's helping you, dude. Liam says it was a good point you raised. Mine is all mapped out. Also took your advice on using map elements, the Cavern of Woe, and the email I'm having. All right, I'll take a look at your email. I'll get back to you, dude. Busyness. Sorry. Antitheist. Antitheist. All right, I got it. Anti-heist. Anti-heist. The live stream is devolving into Luke not being able to talk English. I'm just going to be grunting. I'll be like... Oh, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Oh, wait, I screwed it up. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck was Chuck Norris? Oh, Chuck Norris can chuck wood. His flying sidekick. Oh my gosh, flying sidekicks are so dumb. So I'm a black belt in like Taekwondo and crap, and like I hate jumping kicks and flying kicks. Give me a friggin' break. The stupidest stuff that was ever invented. It looks cool, don't get me wrong, but it's dumb. I'd much rather punch and knee and like elbow and crap any day of the week and grapple and go down and do nasty stuff than like flying sidekicks. And I mentioned the flying sidekick because Chuck Norris was renowned for the flying sidekick. I think he was also a world champion martial artist in like tournaments and crap. This dude was nuts. Anyway, there you go. There you go. You just got my little spiel on martial arts. Good deal. All right, we're getting toward the end of the live stream. If you got any questions, this is your last chance to do it. It can be about dungeon mastering. It can be about Dungeons and Dragons. It can be personal questions that I reserve the right not to answer. I have some other questions that people asked me that I have like piled up here from like old things that people have asked, but I'm not going to answer those if... Well, this is interesting. This is actually an interesting question. This question are courtesy rules for the players and DM to follow. D&D etiquette. So I had somebody asking about D&D etiquette. So my players will tell you that there are two things that like get me, that like get on my nerves or will upset me and stuff. There are two things. One of them doesn't upset me. The other does upset me. But the first thing as a dungeon master that I consider to be good etiquette is if I'm talking, you're listening to me. If I'm describing a room or a scene or something somebody is saying or doing, then I expect the players to be listening to me. I'm not going to repeat myself, okay? And if another player is talking and interacting with the environment, I expect the other players to be paying attention and listening, okay? So this is just my thing. You know, I cannot abide side conversations. So like, I crap you not. I used to be a teacher. I was a teacher for 4 years. I have mastered the stare of death. Okay. So like my students, I would just give them this look and they're just like, they'd wilt a little bit and they'd be like, oh crap. So like, I do the same thing with my players. Like, and I do it just like by second impulse. It's the 1,000-yard long stare of death. When there's a side conversation going on, especially if I'm in the middle of talking and then people start talking on the side, I stop and I just stare at them. I just give them this very serious... I just look at them. And then they're like, oh, and then they quiet down. So for me, as a dungeon master, proper etiquette is to listen to people around you that are playing the game and pay attention to the game. This probably includes like cell phone crap. Although many of my players use their cell phones for the game. They look up spells and crap like that. So that's good etiquette. So I expect the players to do that. The second thing that gets me, that actually kind of does make me upset, are rules arguments. I cannot abide rules arguments. I am all for having a discussion, talking about a rule, right? But once the Dungeon Master has made a ruling, then we need to drop it and move on. I once had a player who loved to argue rules with me, and he probably, by no coincidence, was the only player that I ever kicked out of one of my games. And it wasn't because he was arguing rules. I'm not that petty. But that was influential in that decision. He was doing some other stuff that was causing big problems in the group. The type of problems that like make other players leave. So, but rules arguing, in my opinion, good etiquette on a player's part is let's have an adult discussion about a rule. Let's talk about it. I will listen to your side. I will listen to what you have to say. I will read the rules in the book, and I will try to make a ruling that is in the spirit of what is written in the book, right? But once I've made that ruling, let's move on. Etiquette. So that's, for me as a DM, those are things I look for. My one rule for players, my courtesy rule for all my players, and this is a great rule because I made it. For me, this covers a lot of ground. Basically, I expect all my players to contribute positively to the game environment. That's like the one overriding rule. If you're doing that as a player, then you're probably going to stay in everybody's good graces, right? Contribute positively to the game environment. And there are lots of different ways to do that. And there are lots of different ways to not contribute positively, to contribute negatively. I mean, getting into arguments with people is one way to not contribute positively to the game environment, right? So that is that rule. I kind of have those expectations for my players. I think that for the Dungeon Master, some etiquette for the Dungeon Master is probably not to be a jerkwad, not to have the power that you have go to your head, not to do things that are petty and mean. When I'm making rulings, for instance, I always try to side toward, give my players the benefit of the doubt, right? In my rulings and things, I want them to feel like, I'm not just being a petty jerk and like getting it my way because I'm the Dungeon Master and I have the power. That's like a He-Man thing. I have the power. Isn't that a He-Man thing? I swear that's a He-Man thing. So as a Dungeon Master, you need to not flaunt your power. You need to use it. You need to be like, you have the power, but like use it wisely, judiciously, and stuff like that. Remember, the goal as a Dungeon Master is to make a fun game environment for your players. If the players are having fun, then you've won D&D. So, yeah. I think don't be a wang rod is like etiquette for a Dungeon Master. And that covers a lot of ground. There are lots of things you can do that are not cool as a Dungeon Master that are going to make your players not like it. So, there you go. Another thing, too, is like if people have problems, if people have gripes, let the Dungeon Master know. Talk to me, about things. If I'm doing something that's ticking you off, let me know. I'm probably not doing it on purpose. Like I just recently had I occasionally do feedback sessions in my games too. And I recently had a feedback session, and one of my players told me, "Hey, Luke, they're all from a different game world, and they were magically transported to the current world they're in." And he was telling me, Luke, I have these two skills that I heavily invested into, history and arcana. And they're pretty much not of any use whatsoever in the game because we're from a different world, and I don't know any of the history of the current world or anything about the magic of the current world, and so these two skills that I heavily invested in are worthless to me. And I thought about it for like 2 seconds, and I'm like, you're totally right. These are now going to be of value to you. And we made a ruling at the moment that he had taken some time to study the current world so that these two skills that he had invested in were not worthless to him. I don't want a player to feel like I'm, killing half of his character. And so that's like a tip or a courtesy thing. Like if there's something another player is doing or the DM is doing, have a conversation like adults, hopefully we can do that and work it out and come to an understanding. Half the time when I'm doing something that my players don't like, I don't know that I'm doing it, and I only recognize that I'm doing something that they don't like when they tell me about it. So if they were to just say, you know what, Luke, I don't like Luke's game, I'm just leaving, and they leave, then I never learn what that thing was that they didn't like about my game that caused them to leave. I mean, it could be something like, I spent lots of time on my backstory, and you never do anything with my backstory, you know? Now, if they were to just tell me that, you know, I would totally be like, oh, dude, that sucks. I'm sorry. I will totally get on that. You know what I'm saying? But if they just are upset about it and then they leave, then I can't do anything about it, and I can't improve as a dungeon master. So I think feedback is important. My hope is that other DMs are open to receiving that sort of feedback as well to run better games and crap like that. So anyway, that is my thing. All right, so there we go. Courtesy rules for players and dungeon masters. Cameron has a question. He says, can you repeat that? Repeat what, dude? I don't even know. This is like way back in the chat. So I said something, and he wants me to repeat it. Oh, Paul. It looks like Paul has a question. He says, do you have any feelings about a player's magic items exceeding what they can do naturally? I think by definition, all magic items allow you to exceed something that you can do naturally. So by that statement, I think that is normal and to be accepted. Now, if you're asking, what do I think about magic items that are super overpowered and allow them to do things that are crazy and beyond what they probably should be able to do at their level, then I don't like that. I think I probably run a low, not a low magic world, but a low magic item world. I don't give my players tons of crazy magic items. I prefer to be stingy with them and dole them out slowly for several reasons, balance being one of them, but also because when you're swimming in magic items, they're not as special, and it's not as fun to get a magic item. When magic items are more rare, when you get one, you're like, freaking sweet! I just got a +2 spear. I don't use spears, but I might just consider it because like magic items are rare in this game, and so it makes it much more special when they do get a magic item if they're rare. And so, and I don't give them like super powerful magic items either. You know, I give them ones that are reasonable. But the other advantage of doling them out slowly and not giving them something crazy is that it's much better to like give them less and then realize you're making a mistake and then give them a little bit more than give them too much, realize you've made a mistake, and then try to get them back. Because then they feel like you're nerfing them, that you're taking stuff away from them, and that doesn't feel good. It's much better to give them too few and then more, and they're like, woo, we're getting more, than like too many, and then take them away, and they're like, the Dungeon Master's taking away all my magic items. What a jerk. So that's my theory on that stuff. If that's helpful, I hope. Huber says, not paying attention, rocks fall. Mr. Gygax, making dungeons that just kill people. Thank you, sir, for that. Paul says, if I have say +5 to hit and damage, should my magic items not exceed, or is it even +10 to hit and damage? Okay, +10. So, dude, according to the Dungeon Master Guide, a +3. I'm talking about 5th edition. A +3 magic item is a big deal. Like a big deal. That's considered a very rare, if I recall correctly. And the reason is that 5th edition uses like bounded accuracy, and the curve at which the numbers go up is slow. In 3.5, numbers went up very, very fast. And so you'd have situations like somebody has a +40 on their grapple and can grapple anybody. Nobody can break free of the grapple. In 5th edition, they changed that and fixed it and made it so that you could be pretty darn good at like athletics checks and grapplings, and somebody who's untrained still has a chance of like getting out of that grapple. What this means when you have flatter curves of like number progressions is that a +3 is a bigger deal. A +5 is, in the Dungeon Master Guide, there aren't even +5s. There aren't even +4s. The highest it gets is a +3 because the designers are trying to do like a flatter curve on it. So like a +1 magic item, that's a big deal for somebody at level 5. A +2 at level 5 is crazy. That's something that you would wait until like maybe level 10 to give. A +3 is like a level 15 or above probably. So those are really powerful. okay? Just based upon math and how they designed the game and how they designed balance, right? So, and what I've found too, for 5th edition especially, is that the player characters are like really powerful without magic items. Like, seriously, you guys. Their natural abilities and skills make them super powerful. And around 8th level or so, all of the challenge rating calculations that are in the Dungeon Master Guide and crap fall apart completely. And I just threw, case in point, my Sword Coast card group right now is level 12. And these guys, I threw at them two CR 15 demons, okay? Which is like 4 times above the deadly threshold, if you guys know how that math works. And they beat them, and it wasn't that hard for them. It was sufficiently challenging, but it wasn't like crazy hard. Well, I should revise. The first time they came across those demons, the party was split up, and 2 characters ended up dying, like dead. Like souls sucked out and can only be brought back by wish. But that's because they split the party, and that was a bad decision on their part. And they fell into an obvious trap also, which was an obvious trap. Like, there were literally gems on the floor in this big room, and they're like, let's just go walk in and take a look at them. Anyway, different story. But once they did a rematch against them, they basically like left, licked their wounds, got the 2 players whose characters died, rolled up new characters, and then they joined that group, and then the group came back in full force, fought the demons, and won. So my point is that, what was my point? There was an original question and a tangent. I went off on a tangent. My point is that there's a certain part where challenge rating and stuff totally falls apart. And the characters are already super powerful to begin with. So if you start giving them tons of magic items, you're just going to have to compensate even more by making your enemies and your encounters even more challenging, you know. And so then you're diverging wildly from the math, which just makes it probably more difficult to build your encounters out if you're going crazy with magic items. But it is an art as well, so there's nothing wrong with that approach, just as long as as a Dungeon Master, you understand what you're doing, and you're able to compensate appropriately, and then you're fine. I'm not saying you don't do that. I'm just saying that you need to understand the implications of doing that, and be prepared to adjust for them, in which case you're fine. So I'm not saying there's a right and wrong. I'm just saying that there's things to think about and consider if you're going to do that. All right, let's see if we got some more questions. I see a bunch of junk people wrote, so there might be a question somewhere in there. Four Elemental says, action, Stare of Death. Roll a wisdom saving throw, DC 50. If success, take half as much damage. If you failed, you take 100 D100 psychic damage. Immunity does not negate damage. I don't know if there is any immunity to psychic damage in the game. There might be. I just don't recall offhand. That's the Stare of Death, man. One of my players was telling me, Ted was telling me too, like, he's the one that's like, dude, you give us this crazy Stare of Death, man. It's actually really intimidating. Like, he was being straight up honest with me. He's like, it's really intimidating when you give us the Stare of Death. And I'm like, well, dude, you've never taught like 9th graders before. I have. And I figured out Stare of Death is the most effective way to make them shut up and pay attention. There you go. What do we got going there? Wiggles says, not listening is definitely a pet peeve #1. But #2 for me is rule lawyers that won't let it go. Dude, we're on the same page, Wiggles. Totally on the same page. Trying to find some questions. Wiggles says, if you disagree with a ruling, we can discuss it at the end. Don't hold up the session for 10 to 15 minutes. Arguing with me over who's right and who's wrong, I'm nodding my head. It's not worth it, dude. Like, seriously, the reason that people get together to play Dungeons & Dragons, I think, is to have fun. And there's nothing fun about arguing over rules. And the only thing that comes from arguing over rules is people get worked up, sometimes get really upset about it, have arguments and fights, and then the whole game session can be ruined. I mean, this should really be part of a session 0. or a session now to talk to players and say, listen, you guys, no rules arguments. This is how it's going to work, right? I will listen respectfully to your side of things. I will consider the rules as written, and then I will make a ruling that I think is fair. And if you don't think it's fair, that's fine, but we will talk about it after the game or out over email, or we'll go get a coffee or a burger or something together, and we'll talk about it. But we're not going to do it in the game. And that is something that I think all gaming groups should come to an understanding about, because I think it will avoid lots of upsetness. There's a good English word for you. All right, let's keep reading. Reading the comments. Looking for questions and other interesting things that people are saying. Paul Schreiber says, old school Blue Bolt. If a player is being a beep, roll dice on a table, they take that damage. You can do that. I usually, my preference for addressing players with unacceptable behavior is to talk with them and just explain, hey, dude, when you're doing this, blah, 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 whatever, and then have a talk, have a conversation, and get them to understand my side of things, listen to them and see why they're doing it, see if you can come to an agreement and have them understand why that behavior, whatever happens to be, is causing a problem at the table, and then you ask them to stop doing that, and maybe once or twice you talk to them about it, and if they keep on doing it, then you need to make a decision. Is this behavior bad enough that it's interrupting the game enough that I need to ask this player to leave, or is this something I'm willing to live with and just put up with? And that's a decision the DM has to make. So I don't like punishing. If a player has bad behavior, I don't like punishing characters. That just seems like it's just going to make things worse to me, because there's a good probability that you're just going to make that player upset, which is just going to make his behavior worse, and things just escalate. I think it's better not to take that punish the character for the player's junk thing approach. I think it's better to talk like adults and try to work something out. I think that is going to probably have much better solution than the other way around. I've had discussions with players before, about things they were doing, and it's almost always worked out positively. And what was a problem, we talked about it, and then it was resolved, and it was mostly not a problem again. And so I think I've had really good success just talking to people like human beings, So I definitely recommend that approach. Cameron was messing around. What did you do, Cameron? What did you do in the chat that now you're saying you're messing around? Oh, can you repeat that? Oh, okay. I probably gave like a long-winded answer, and then he's like messing with me. He's like, can you repeat that? That's awesome, dude. I'm pretty far behind in the chat. Oh, For Mental has a question. I heard that dragons have 2 breath weapons, one damaging and one utility. Is that true? Not in the 5th edition Monster Manual. However, I'm pretty sure that not the chromatic dragons, but the good dragons, whatever they were called, I'm pretty sure that in 3.5, the good dragons had 2 different breath weapons that they could use. That's my recollection from having run 3.5 a long time ago. But whether it's true or not in the books doesn't necessarily mean it can't be true in your games. You could definitely give them those breath weapons. You might get your 3.5 rulebook out or Monster Manual out and, give a breath weapon to 5th edition dragons, which would be interesting, make them different than what players are usually accustomed to encountering. How to D&D is in the house. What up, dude? Welcome to the stream. Yeah, we got a lot of people, a lot of peeps here hanging out. There are many more people here tonight, it feels like, than when I do the encounter creation streams. So that's cool. Either it was a good Friday night, or people like this sort of question and answer thing more than like creating an encounter. And I'll be honest, like we do not creating an encounter, but creating an adventure. We do those creating an adventure streams, and they are a lot of work for me. They're really taxing on me, just like mentally and crap. Like this sort of stream right here, where we're just talking and answering questions and talking and crap. They don't drain me. They're like cool and fun and crap, and I like them a lot. And I think they're valuable too, because I'm answering questions, which people have, which is good, because people got questions, and I have some answers, maybe. my voice is definitely giving out. So we are very near to closing the shop down for the night. Because I've been talking for a couple hours straight, and that's why I'm drinking coffee, which is probably not helping. Paul Schreiber says, just quit a game. I want to play my character with an item, not a bunch of magic items where my own stats and abilities hardly matter. That is an interesting point, Paul. That is a really good way to look at that. I've never thought of that before. Like, as a dungeon master, I've always thought of magic items and game balance and the repercussions it has that way. And also the fact that giving magic items out like candy makes them not very special. But I've never considered the fact that having too many magic items makes your character less important. And everything becomes about those magic items because that's everything. And that makes your character feel small and insignificant. I never considered that, but that is a very good point. I will now incorporate that into my discourse on why you shouldn't just give out tons of crazy magic items. Very good point, dude. Pedro says buildings are immune to psychic damage. That's good. That's totally logical. Absolutely. Yeah. Liam Bird says one last question. Thanks, Luke and chat, for a good evening, early morning, 2 a.m. here. What trap do you tend to use most on PCs in your game? I don't use lots of traps in my games. The traps in my games are pretty rare because I don't want players spending too much time searching everything everywhere for traps. I have a house rule that your passive perception does not find traps. You actually have to state that you're searching for them. Same for secret doors. It's house rule. I'm not going to go into why. But I don't want them to be spending too much time checking everything for traps. And so I use traps rarely in my games because I want them to be special and interesting when I do use them. And I usually don't make them super hard to find. I usually place the traps in obvious places where the bad guys would mostly want a trap, guarding something very important, or the entrance, or a treasure chest, or the treasure vault, or something, okay? So that's not the question, though. The question was, what trap do I use the most? I don't know. I usually try to think, not usually, but I usually try to think of unique traps or different traps that I haven't used before. I will tell you my favorite trap so far. I'm gonna be like a politician. I'm not gonna answer your question. I'm gonna answer the question that I want to answer. Okay. I hate how politicians do that. I ask you, how do you feel about this topic? And then he immediately goes to his talking point on something else. It's like, dude, I don't freaking care about that. Why don't you just be more obvious about not answering my question? Anyway, not here to talk about that. I think universally most people don't like that, unless you're a politician. In which case, sorry. Anyway, my point is that my favorite trap that I've used was Sword Coast Guard was in Granny Titchwillow's cottage after having defeated her, and they went up to the second floor, and there was a chest up there, and they're like, chest, awesome, I check it for traps. No, there are no traps on it, because there weren't. They open the chest, and a swarm of bees comes out of the chest. The bees were trapped in the chest, but the chest wasn't trapped. The bees come out, they swarm around, they sting the dude for 1 or 2 damage. He kills them, and he's like, this is ridiculous. He looks in the chest, and at the bottom of the chest, there is one solitary copper piece. And everybody at the table is laughing their butts off because he just had to deal with these bees, which wasn't a big deal. And then there's one copper piece, and the player, his name was Robert. He was like, ugh, whatever. I grabbed the copper piece out of exasperation, and then the copper piece was a trap though, and he grabs the copper piece, and then a lightning bolt basically hits him. Lightning courses up from the copper piece through his arm into his whole body, and he took a lot of damage from that. And that's my favorite trap because it's a trap within a trap. And the atmosphere at the table was really, like, we were laughing our butts off, making fun of him. And I occasionally will take that exact same trap and just place it somewhere randomly. Like, I might be running a one-shot at a convention, and I hadn't planned on using that trap, but I'll just throw a chest in there and have that trap in there because I think it's hilarious. Anyway, that's my favorite trap. That's the question that I wanted to answer. All right. Let me see. Hold on a second. Oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? Oh, sorry, I screwed something up. Paul, you were linking something. You were linking a trap to the chat, and I accidentally deleted that link. Feel free to relink that to everybody. Actually, I'll take a look at it and make sure that it's, see what that crap is. Relink that, Paul. Sorry. Relink that trap. That is actually a pretty cool trap. Actually, I'll just show this. I'll show everybody this trap. So this is the trap. Paul said this is the only trap you'll ever need. Free XP. Check this out. Free XP. That's awesome. That is a freaking sweet trap. I don't know what's in there, but you know your players will go for it. All right, now I'll show it. There we go. There we go. Luke DeVolt, welcome to the stream, dude. Good to see you, buddy. He might have been like a ninja hiding out here the whole time, and this is the first time he's typed anything in. Like a ninja, like a rogue assassin. All right. Any more questions? Because I'm about to bug out, ladies and gentlemen. Wiggles says, can you repeat that comment? Was when you were talking about players not listening and you won't repeat yourself. No, I won't repeat that comment. You need to listen, Wiggles. Thanks, How to D&D. Appreciate the props and the support and stuff. What do we got going on here? Munchkin quits being fun fast. Oh, that's interesting, dude. I played Munchkins at a convention at GrandCon last year, and it was lots of fun. I haven't done it a whole lot, though, to know if it quits being fun fast. It was fun for the couple games I played, though, for sure. Or are you talking about something else? Maybe you're not talking about the Munchkins game. Maybe you're talking about actual D&D, but being a Munchkin in D&D. That's possible. Now we know, so Huber says, now we know to leave the lone copper alone. Yes. If you're ever playing one of my games and there is a solitary copper piece lying somewhere, don't touch it. It's never good. But the gold piece, yes. Touch the gold piece. It's D&D take on the free candy van or free hugs. Yep. All right, guys, I'm bugging out. It's after 10. I'm tired. My contacts are dry. My voice is dying. And there are no more questions. So there we go. I will see you next Friday. I think we're planning on doing we're going to continue creating that adventure that we had begun. Hopefully we'll get close to finishing it. And then we'll do that next Friday. And Tuesdays are the videos and crap. If you guys, if you haven't joined me on Discord, please come on by to the Discord server. There's a link down in the description to it. That's where I hang out the most with all the peeps and stuff. And there's a lot of Dungeon Masters over there, both experienced Dungeon Masters that are going to help answer questions, and new Dungeon Masters, welcome as well. Heck, if you're not a Dungeon Master and you just want to hang out, come on by. There's a link down in the description for it. So I'll just do a little plug there to my Discord for everybody because, yeah, it's fun. All right, guys, I'm done. I'm bugging out. I'll see you guys next time and all that good jazz. Thanks for hanging. It's been fun. I'll do my like mandatory outro that I do in all my videos. And until next time,
let's play D&D.
All right, and I gotta find the stop button. Here's the stop button. All right, guys, peace and out. Later.